All right, everyone. So this week we're going to be talking about network sockets. So you'll see that in this slide right here, you're going to see realpython.com, Python, and it's going to be referencing Python sockets. It's a page that really is actually going to walk you through everything actually on what you need to do for the assignment this week. I've actually already brought it up, and I'm also going to be posting this link within the material section within side of our Discord channel. So just make sure that you take a look there, and if you're watching this, and know that if you walk through basically this one page of documents, it's going to set you up for success, and you're going to be able to pass both of the assignments this week with flying colors. So while there is a lot of stuff here to go through, I'm going to kind of at a high level overview talk about it with this week's lecture, walk you through how some of this works, and then just the expectations and anticipations of the assignment itself. So with that being said, right, so what is a socket? So now we've been really focusing a lot more, like last time we were focusing on web scraping, pulling things. Now we're actually going to be talking about, you're going to start to see that we're going to start to focus more on networking and the internal networking of systems here for the next few weeks. And the first thing that we're going to start off with is sockets, because that's what we use to make connections with inside of a network and outside of a network. So a network socket is an endpoint that provides communication between two running programs, or in its simplest form, the same program. Another good way to think about this is a socket is the connection between two IPs and a port, right? You have to make it by using two IPs and a port, or an IP and a port, right? So you see here, you have port 5555, and then here's the IP that it's running on, right? Or as you can see, message out, message in, right? Just going to localhost. Can't make it more simple than that. It is literally the connection of how two machines are going to connect to each other, or one machine. A lot of times it's going to be two machines because that's just how it works. But it's in that simple, true form. It is an app, a computer, a host, whatever it is. It's something making a connection to something. Okay. So doing this in Python, in order to do this in Python, you need to write two scripts. Notice how it says simple. You don't have to overthink this. Both of them are provided in D2L for you to experiment with, and that's literally all you have to do. You're just going to experiment with them and then send them out. And by send them out, I mean submit them. Sorry. We'll go over that here in just a second with the expectations. But one is a server, one's a client. What does that mean? The server is going to be the actual server, so the thing that's going to be waiting for the connection, and then the client is the one that's going to send that connection. So again, the server is just something waiting, and the client is the one that's acting. So as you can see, using the starter script and the server script, I'm sorry, the server and the client script, you want to just be able to repeat what's within here. That's it. Okay. And you want to be able to duplicate the results that is expected. Change the message that you would wish to send to the client to the server. Another thing is if you find this too easy, because you can basically pretty much do it verbatim. I'm not saying you have to do this. It's not a requirement. You can just do do as it's supposed to, but if you find it too easy, read the contents of a text file and send the entire file as a message, right? So you can do that by using OS, right? And doing the read and write methods if you'd like. But again, you don't have to. It's not a requirement. You don't have to. So with the expectations of it, right? Using the starter script, or using both of those starter scripts as a baseline, you want to make sure that you modify the server to reply to the client with a message that it received, and modify the client to receive the server reply and display that reply. Okay. And then that's going to be pretty much it. These lectures, the past couple of weeks are a little quieter, not as long, but that doesn't mean that we don't need to walk through some things, right? So if you go through the realpython.com documents, and again, these will be, you can find them in the lecture slides. Also going to post them within the material slides. I'm sorry, the material section of Discord. You'll be able to find all of this good stuff, right? You can find that you can use socket, bind, listen, accept, right? So socket is creating a socket, listening is going to be listening for a connection, and accept means it will accept the connection, okay? So looking at here, right, here's like a little template. We're going to have our host and our port. Okay, so in this case, you can just use 127.0.0.1 if you want, or you can use whatever the actual local or the IP address assigned to that. So if you're doing this in like a VM environment, you're going to want to be able to, you'll need to do an ifconfig if it's Linux, ipconfig if it's Windows. If you're doing this in the Cyberopolis labs and you're using like one of the Kali Linux instances, that would be ifconfig to find it, okay? And then the port can be pretty arbitrary. You just want to make sure that you know which port you're using, because that's going to be important for the client, because these need to match, okay? And so here we're going to start with a statement. We're going to say with socket.socket. So we're calling from the socket library. You're going to be creating a stream and initializing it, okay? And then you're going to use that bind. So bind is going to be binding the host and the port to create that socket. And then it's going to listen. And notice again, S is being declared here, right? Because it's as S. So we're declaring S has a socket. We're going to connect and accept whatever address, and then it's going to tell you whatever address it came in on. And if it fails, it's going to break. So this is literally what you need to write out, okay? Again, we can use, this is just talking about each different step, okay? Again, this is going to break it down for you. And then with the client, we're basically going to do the same thing, okay? But instead of using the listening method, we're going to use the send all, okay? So, and then you're going to just say, you're going to print it out, received data, and data is going to be whatever it receives, and it's going to print it out, okay? And so when you run these, there's going to be a couple different things that you're going to want to do. I'll show that to you here in just a second. I got to get my server running up really quick. But if you need to look at anything additional, you can just kind of go through it. It'll show you what you can do. So let's see. All right, so my server is acting up, but I can do you guys a solid for this week. And as I mentioned, the assignment is pretty much foolproof if you go through the socket programming with Python or real Python link that will be submitted in the material section for Discord. So looking at the scripting assignments, and just to be clear on like what's required of them, it's pretty straightforward here, right? So the server accepts a connection on port 5555. If you don't make it on, quadruple 5, it's not going to, be anything bad. Sometimes folks might have an issue with, if they have some kind of rule set on a firewall or something they might not know about, it might make an issue. So it just, as long as you can make it to where it's connecting on a port, that's what's going to matter. The server is going to receive a message. It's going to create an MD5 hash of the message, and then print the message and the MD5 hash of the message. So really what you have to do is just create a while loop based off of the connection that's going to hash the message itself. We've done that before. If you use some of your previous code from other assignments, and I'll show you here in just a second, you'll be able to just take it and hash it, and then you declare that hash a certain variable, and then you call that variable out, and that's all you got to do. So that's for the server. And so the client, same thing. It needs to connect on the same port. Again, if you don't use 55555, that's fine. But it doesn't need to use the same port as the server. If you don't use the same port, it's not going to make that socket connection, okay? And then the client will receive 10 messages. So you're going to need to make sure that it's going to do that. If it doesn't for whatever reason, and like that's giving you a huge hiccup, I'm not gonna like dock points or anything off it. I really want to see that you're able to make the connection. That's really what I want to be able to see. And obviously print out a hash, right? Which is pretty straightforward of just making sure that you use the hash library. You take whatever is being passed through and you hash it, and that's it. Okay. So, and a question that was asked, and to answer that again, is that you don't have to do this from two separate hosts. So if you can do this on your PC, your MacBook, your Linux host, whatever it is that you're operating on, you can run this all from the same host. Okay. So like a lot of you might be running out of the Cyberopolis environment, or if you're running it out through like a VM, you can do it all from that same VM. That's completely fine. You don't have to do it from two separate hosts to show that you're getting a connection from something else. In fact, if you do that, you might have a little bit of network. You may come into some networking issues that aren't really part of the assignment to even worry about. But if you do, and that's the way of how you want to do it, that's fine. But that's not required of the assignment. In fact, I would say it would be behoove you to just do it from one host. So that being said, so with the client, I'm going to show you the scripts for this week and kind of walk you through them, since my VM is not being, the server that I work out of is not behaving. So you can see, right, these are the solutions. So here's the solution script for the client. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, you're just creating a list. You need to create a list of of words, right? So in this case, it's just arbitrary, but just make sure that it has those there. And as you can see too, like this is pretty much the script, right? A couple students have asked, is like, if this is the assignment for this week, it is. Take it as a blessing, right? It's an easy week. But this is going to be the script where you're going to make sure that it goes through each item in the list and it sends it off. And that's literally it. That's literally it. It's can't get any more simple than that. Of course, if you have questions, you know where to find me. As you can see too, this is not running on or sending out on port 55555. You also need to make sure you use the socket library and the system library. Okay. As mentioned, the socket library is going to have all of the components and functions that are going to be used to create a socket, which, as we've mentioned, socket is a IP and a port. A port and an IP connecting together. Okay. And then for the server, kind of helping you guys out this week, same script, but here you're going to make sure that you're going to declare MD5 has a variable. In this case, with the script, it's just MD5 object. And then you're going to pass whatever is you're going to update it and pass through whatever is being passed through the buffer, right? And so the buffer is going to be mentioned right here. Okay. So buffer is whatever it's receiving, can receive up to 2048 bytes. You're going to create a digest, which the digest is what's going to be able to essentially encode. And then you're going to encode all that good stuff by digest bytes. Okay. And then you're going to print out buffer. Remember, buffer is the original message, and digest bytes. And that's literally it, guys. That's it. Run these two scripts from the same host, and you'll be golden. So for that, that's really all we got this week. So if you do have any questions, you know where to find me. Please ping me on Discord. Otherwise, really looking forward to seeing everybody's TCP connections. And the next week, we'll start getting more into packet analysis, and we'll start seeing some more things with networking. So that's going to be it.